In the headlines, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi insists fuel subsidy is organised crime, says proceeds will be channeled to poverty eradication if elected. 14 die as bandits vigilantes clash in Niger. Family of Imam killed by poison demands justice. And on the foreign scene, Ethiopian government and Tigrayan forces formally agreed to end two-year war after talks in South Africa. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Update. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Hello and welcome once again. We begin with politics, where presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, says he will immediately discontinue the fuel subsidy regime if he becomes the country's leader, describing it as an organised crime which is only benefiting a few rich Nigerians. Peter Obi, who on Wednesday visited the headquarters of the Media Trust Group in Abuja, said the concept of subsidy, right from records of consumption of fuel, was steeped in corruption. The Labour Party's presidential candidate also speaks on other pressing issues. Yusuf Akogu reports.
Presidential candidates of the four leading political parties are in agreement that fuel subsidy must go. The question is how soon, considering that the present administration had set the exit date for subsidy for June next year, the month after it leaves office. For the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, exiting subsidy will be an immediate thing so that proper investment could be made in sectors that need to be invested in.
Subsidy is organized crime. I will not allow any form of criminality as president of Nigeria. A, the amount of fuel they say we consume cannot be consumed by this country. There's an empirical evidence. We are about the same size as Pakistan. Pakistan, we are about 210, 220. Pakistan is about the same size. They have more roads. We probably have same number of vehicles, or they have even more. Yet, their fuel consumption is a third of ours. So who is drinking the balance?
Obi is also emphasizing that he is a Nigerian candidate and not a Southeastern candidate, and will negotiate with all agitating groups around the country so as to quell the spate of insecurity across the country.
I'm contesting as a Nigerian. I don't want people to vote for me because I'm an Igbo man, because I'm from Southeast. I don't want anybody to vote for me because people don't buy bread cheaper because they're from that zone. I don't want anybody to vote for me because I'm a Christian. I don't want them to vote because it's my turn. It's not inheritance. It is the turn of Nigerians to take back their country.
A point of contention among Nigerians is the epileptic power sector, which the Labour Party presidential candidate said will be tackled by drawing from models that have worked in other African countries.
Egypt is just exporting electricity now to Europe. Egypt is a third world country. If Egypt can do it, Nigeria can do it.
The Labour Party presidential candidate is insisting that Nigeria can be salvaged by purposeful and honest leadership that will manage the country's resources like he did in Anambra State, and is boasting that he is the most qualified of all the contestants that have thrown their hearts into the ring. Yusuf Akogu, Trust Television News, Abuja.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Welcome back, and apologies for that slight break. It was due to some technical difficulties right here in our studio. Now, before we went on that break, we're telling you that a federal high court sitting in Kaduna State has nullified the primary election conducted by the People's Democratic Party for Kaduna Central Senatorial District due to irregularities. The court presided over by Justice Muhammad Umar also ordered that a fresh primary be conducted by the party within 14 days. Justice Umar's ruling followed a suit filed by one of the senatorial aspirants, Ibrahim Usman, who challenged the May 24th primary that produced Lawal Adamu as the winner of the election on the grounds of overvoting. He also asked the court to order the conduct of a fresh primary election where all the 6 aspirants will test their popularity in a free and fair exercise. In his ruling on Wednesday, Justice Umar dismissed all the preliminary objections raised by the defendant and upheld all the reliefs brought by the plaintiff and ordered a fresh primary to be conducted by the PDP in Kaduna Central Senatorial District within 14 days. And still talking politics, a few months to the 2023 elections in Nigeria, political campaign posters are taking over available public space in the commercial city of Kano. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibril reports that some residents, however, suggest that politicians should employ result-oriented campaigns rather than printing campaign posters.
4 months from now, Nigerians will head to the polls to elect their state and federal representatives. In the politically sensitive Kano state, all entry and exit points, marketplaces, and big roundabouts, posters of party candidates are everywhere, and voters are expecting the politicians to do more in fulfilling their campaign promises.
Na farko akwai amfani da ake so a yi da matasa.
The first thing is that there is the intention of using youth to win election and the consideration of constituency influence. Therefore, voters need to pay closer attention as to who they are supposed to vote.
Dole abin yana da buƙatar gaskiya mutane su tsaya su san irin wannan irin shugabanni za su zaba.
Although campaign posters are to communicate to voters on the intention and plans of candidates, they often help people to get to know about who is contesting for what. However, voters say it's not the posters that matters.
To 'yan takarkari dai ga su nan kowanne ya fito ya baje kolinsa.
While candidates have all came out looking for voters, however, what I would say is that we have made a mistake of not involving God in politics before now, believing that our candidate knows it all. But most people have now realized the previous mistakes and hoping that God will help us.
To amma akasarin al'umma yanzu kowa ya gane kuskuren da muka yi a baya.
Mun yi zaton za a samu kyautatuwar.
Before now, we thought that the politicians will make things easier for us. Unfortunately, the reverse is the case. We vote in 2015, believing that Buhari will make things easy for us. But he didn't, as we expect. As campaign continues across many parts of the state, campaign posters carrying various messages that may evoke hopes seems to be increasing across the state. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Now to matters of security, where 8 armed bandits and 6 vigilante members lost their lives on Tuesday during a gun duel around Kundu Axis near Zungeru in Wushishi local government of Niger State. Now, according to reports, the incident occurred around 9 p.m. after the community got hint of the suspected kidnappers' movement across Kundu towards Akere with a large number of rustled cattle. The vigilante operatives immediately went after the bandits, which led to the casualties on both sides. Locals said that while the criminals were passing through their usual route, they also got wind through their informants of the vigilantes' plan to engage them, hence they prepared for a showdown. Meanwhile, Police Public Relations Officer for Niger Command, DSP Wasiu Abiodun, could not be reached for reaction on the incident. The rising security challenges within the country have made vigilante groups a necessity as security agencies battle to contain the challenge. Although these voluntary groups that operate mostly in communities were not armed, the rise in security made some of them to resort to locally made guns. However, with the recent ban on the usage of arms by vigilantes in the FCT, many have suggested that the ban should be replicated across states. Our reporter in Kaduna has this update on what people in the state make of calls for the disarmament of vigilantes.
Vigilante groups came into existence in Kaduna in the last 3 decades. The groups work with police and other security agencies to address activities of criminal elements in communities. In the past, they used stick, knife in the discharge of their duties.
Banning ammunition by the vigilante is not something new. All of us that are doing this job, voluntary job, we know the rules and regulations governing carrying an ammunition. We are not allowed to carry AK-47. We are not allowed to carry any sophisticated weapon that are being used by the police or the army. We are not allowed to do that. And then because of the abuse, but we can carry den gun. Den gun is allowed if you have the license to carry 2, and then you cannot use it without permission.
Some community leaders in Kaduna, while commending vigilant groups for their contribution to security provision in communities, want some form of government regulations in the activities of voluntary security outfits.
They carry it for self-defense because you cannot go starting giving your life to protect somebody without any defense act. So you have to get your all well armed according to the law of the state.
The government should come into their assistance. Let them see where and where they can go into. Even they can send them to the police college here, just at least to give them that moral training to know how to use the ammunition.
Speaking, I don't agree or I don't support this vigilante group carrying firearms. They need to be regulated. So this has to do with a lack of proper training.
However, the recruitment process of community-based security groups lacks proper record of members, raising concern among many Nigerians.
Anyone you see with our own uniform, we have his pooled details. We have his name, we have his name, we have all what is required to be a member.
Community leaders, vigilante groups, and community members, however, want government to regulate activities of the group considering the present security challenge in the north. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
The Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, says the level of damage in the zone needs extensive reconstruction to revive socio-economic activities. NEDC Managing Director Muhammad Al-Ghali said this in Abuja on Wednesday during a signing of a Memorandum of Understanding with the Nigeria Society of Engineers. He said to accelerate its work in the region, the Commission fast-tracked the MOU to fulfill the Executive Order 5 that urges government agencies to prioritize patronage of local content when engaging in procurement. Al-Ghali said the master plan, which covers a lot of activities, has 530 projects and all of them need the input of engineers. The president of the Nigeria Society of Engineers, Tasiu Saad Wudil, said the body wanted the NEDC to achieve the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the Northeast. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says it has moved Ismaila Atumei, a member of the cyber fraud syndicate, linked to a 1.4 billion naira fraud, to Lagos for further investigation. The Commission's spokesperson, Wilson Ujaran, said in his statement on Wednesday that Atumei was flown to Lagos in the early hours of Wednesday, where he is billed to be interrogated by another team of operatives at the Lagos command of the Commission. The FCC had on Tuesday arrested Atumei along with another member of the alleged syndicate, Joshua Dominic, with cash amounts of 226 million naira and $140,500 at Macedonia Street, Queen's Estate, Karsana, Gwarimpa. The FCC said the suspects will be charged to court as soon as investigations is concluded. And the Sharia court sitting at Magajingari, Kaduna, has adjourned the case filed against a popular Kannywood actress, Hadiza Aliu Gabon, to November 15th for parties to report an out-of-court settlement. One Bala Musa, a civil servant, filed a suit against the actress for allegedly refusing to marry him after spending 396,000 naira on her. According to him, he has been in a relationship with the actress and that she promised to marry him. Gabon had, however, denied knowing him, saying she had never met him in her life. The judge, Rilwanu Kyautei, adjourned the case after a senior lawyer, Suleiman Lere, asked the court to give him a chance to talk to both parties to settle the matter. The complainant's counsel, Nuruddin Mursala, supported the settlement proposal made by Lere, adding that reconciliation was an act loved by God and he would not oppose it. The counsel for the defendant, Abu Mubarak Sani, also supported the settlement proposal but prayed the court to listen to the witnesses the complainant was supposed to present. Stay with us on Trust TV News Update. Still ahead. Justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. Details of this and more after the break. You stay with us. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Update. Now let's recap our top stories. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi insists fuel subsidy is organised crime, says proceeds will be channeled to poverty eradication if elected. And 14 die as bandits and vigilantes clash in Niger. Now moving on to other news. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU's Waddanfodio University Sokoto chapter, wants the federal government to call the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, to order before his action towards members plunged the labour sector into another strike. Addressing a press conference in Sokoto on Wednesday, ASU Chairman Muhammad Al-Mustafa accused the Minister of Selective Service for the payment of outstanding salaries of members of the union. Al-Mustafa accused the Minister of bias in settling the outstanding salaries, saying he's using his office to settle some personal scores against a certain segment of academic staff that are not his professional colleagues.
Put the record straight and to expose the heinous activities of the Minister of Labour and Employment, a medical doctor, approved the salary payment of members that are only medical doctors in the university, just to favor his professional colleagues, with the intention of sabotaging the union in all fronts and further create disharmony in the university system in Nigeria. This is to further and specifically state: A, all academic staff of Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, including those in the College of Health Sciences, were fully and undoubtedly on a total and comprehensive strike right from the beginning on the 14th of February till its suspension on the 14th of October 2022. B, none of the members of ASU Kudus or any section of the academic staff of the branch pulled out of the strike action until when the national body called for its suspension on the 14th of October 2022. C, not all members of Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, MDCAN, of Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital, Kudus, are academic staff. So how come they are working?
The need to strengthen coordination and capacity around access to justice for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence has been emphasized. At a sensitization workshop by the Ministry of Justice, organized to engage prosecutors, investigators, and High Court judges, stakeholders said such a coordination became imperative as violence against women and girls in Nigeria now stands at 30% for women aged between 15 and 49 years. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu reports.
The objective of the Interministerial Management Committee's workshop is to raise awareness on the dangers of the prevalence of sexual and gender-based violence. It is also to sensitize these criminal justice actors on the existing laws, cultural misconceptions, reporting of cases, as well as the preservation of evidence and getting the actors to work together to achieve the common goal of providing access to justice for victims and survivors.
We want the populace to know that we exist. We are working hard for their sake, for their comfort, for justice, to give them justice. And we are working together. You can see the three of us under one roof having this conversation. So we are there for them. We exist. We may not be as pronounced as the shelter, as the advocates, as the CSOs and all that, but you can hear from us.
We have to keep working in synergy because those who should be sensitizing are also there. For example, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, CSOs, the federal government body that, National Orientation Agency. So it's everybody has to play his or her own part. And I think, yes, this is on the one, but that's only on the other part too. So I agree with you, it's a very critical component, but that is why you have NOA, that's why you have Ministry of Women Affairs, that's why you have CSOs and all of that.
Although there are laws and instruments to tackle sexual and gender-based violence, stakeholders say there is still more to do in getting justice for victims through judicial activism.
This meeting here today is to talk about it. Where are we? What are we doing that is not right? What can we do to make it better? What can we do to get better prosecution? Because like the minister said sometimes last year, we have almost 4,000 cases in court, but we're able to get just 12 prosecutions. It's something that needs urgent action. So these people here today are key actors.
There is a unanimous agreement here that ending sexual and gender-based violence would require access to the justice system as well as the protection of survivors and victims. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And relatives of Imam Goni Abba, who was allegedly poisoned to death by his second wife, are demanding for justice. Until his death, Abba was Imam at Angwandoki in Maiduguri metropolis. Beatrice Kurusi speaks to the family on the incident.
More than a week ago, residents of Angwandoki woke up with a sad news of the death of one of the residents, Goni Abba, who's the chief imam of this mosque. The imam died from a food poisoning served by his second wife, Fatima Abubakar. The death sparked outcry for justice in the community, The police had already arrested the wife and she has been in custody since then. Fatima confessed to have committed the crime and explained that the marriage was against her wish. I never wanted marriage. When I was with my first husband, I've never experienced peace. It's always problem upon problems. I ran back home and refused to go back to my matrimonial home. My parents persuaded me. I still didn't. So I met one woman who told me it's a spiritual problem. She gave me a 1,000 naira charm to bury that this evil spirit disturbing me will cease. But I've continued to have this anger and restlessness, and it's the evil spirit that made me to kill him with food poisoning. It was after he died that I came back to my senses. A relative to the deceased is demanding justice against Fatima's action. She revealed what happened before the death of Goni Abba. The family are not happy with what happened. On that fateful day, after I prayed, then I saw him coming back from work. Then I heard the wife asking if he is going out again. He replied no. So later, by 12 midnight, I checked he was unconscious. So we rushed him to the hospital where they gave him treatment and drugs. But he was still vomiting. So we took him to the hospital again. When we returned home, he died. We want justice. Effort to reach the public relations officer of the Maiduguri Police Command for more information on the case was unsuccessful.
Now for a look at the foreign scene, where the African Union says Ethiopia's government and Tigrayan forces formally agreed to end fighting after talks in South Africa. In the first briefing on the peace talks on Wednesday, the African Union mediator and former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo said Ethiopia's government and Tigrayan authorities agreed on orderly, smooth and coordinated disarmament, along with restoration of law and order and restoration of services and unhindered access to humanitarian supplies. The war, which broke out in November 2020, has pitted regional forces from Tigray against Ethiopia's federal army and its allies, which include forces from other regions and from neighboring Eritrea. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hailed Wednesday's breakthrough deal and committed to working towards the agreement. And that wraps up Trust TV News Update for this hour. Don't forget, you can subscribe and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.